Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. We're here today to preview tonight's big quarter-final cup match between Newcastle and Brentford in the Carabao Cup at St James's Park. I am doing my John Motson impersonation again because the microphone is still just as broken as it was when you will see next week we recorded our Christmas special. We have been mucking around for quite some time, so it's Michael and I tonight who are going to preview this game. Probably quite a short preview, I think, Michael, because we also previewed a match against Brentford just 2 weeks ago, so we don't really want to repeat all of that content. However, how are you feeling after the Leicester game about this game coming up tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think most people coming into these three games sat and went, these are must-win games, all three of them. You know, we've had numerous disappointments over the last month, and we all still back the team, we all still back the management, but there's only there's a certain point where you look at results and go, right, okay, this isn't really adding up. And Brentford, we'll go into it a bit more, but they beat us 4-2, and we were the toughest opposition they'd played at home. So you were sort of expecting their brilliant run at home to have ended or at least come close to ending, but we didn't look anything like doing that. So I think a bit of positivity now after the Leicester win. I think we were expecting a much tougher game. We didn't get that. We'll definitely get that in the Cup against Brentford, and then who knows, we might even be able to carry that into next week, the weekend.
I don't want to start discussing it just with you, Michael, with an argument. However, I would take issue with. I mean, I agree with you. By the end of the Brentford game, we looked a sorry bunch. Didn't have a clue what we were doing, and we were well beaten 4-2. Should easily have been 5. We were dreadful in that second half. At half time, I think we'd had so many chances. We could have scored 3 or 4 goals in that first half, and we gave them their 2 goals with some really, really sloppy play in defence. Not just by one player. It wasn't a single error. It was a catalogue of errors twice, really, that got them into the lead twice. So I'm encouraged for tomorrow night's game by several things. Firstly, our first half performance against them, because I thought we were by far the better team. I'm encouraged by the fact that we managed to play 90 minutes against Leicester without making some defensive howler, which allowed them to score. But also, and this is the most craziest record, that Brentford have the best home record in the Premier League, but the worst away record in the Premier League. Correct me if I'm wrong. I still think they've only picked up 1 point away from home.
No, you're absolutely correct. 1 point away from home, and I think it was against pretty drab opposition, if I remember. Oh, it was Everton. It was away to Everton. So, and if you listen to the Christmas special next week, you'll understand just how we feel about Everton. So, but yeah, it was a really
Everton.
poor game. It was a really poor game between Everton and Brentford, and we wanted more from what we got. But you are right. First half was positive. There are reasons to be positive, and I don't think that we saw anything from Brentford that would say, oh, they're going to be really dangerous, as you say. We gifted them the goals, but it does have to be said there were 2 fantastic finishes for the first 2 goals.
Well, I think if we are not on our game, they could be really dangerous, because I'm a big fan of Mbeumo. I'm a big fan of Wissa. And then this Schade guy who scored a hat-trick the match before they played Newcastle, he came on and scored the 4th goal and took it really, really well. So they're potent up front at home. But as you say, that point away at Everton was a drab, goalless draw. And I know, having backed players to have shots in the Chelsea-Brentford game on Sunday, that Mbeumo was substituted without taking a shot. And Wissa scored the consolation in injury time, didn't he? But that was his second shot. So far less potent away from home, I think. Um, so yeah, it's a massive, massive game. I think I agree with you. I think this is the second in a trilogy of games that could put us back on track to have a very exciting second half to the season. The first one went according to plan with a 4-0 win against Leicester. Could have been 8 easily. This is the second one, which could put us into a semi-final to look forward to at the start of February.
It'll be something like that, yeah.
With those two results under our belt, you'd hope that we could go down to Ipswich, who haven't won at home yet this season, and not be the typical Newcastle fall guys and lose 1-0, but actually
Happens every time.
scored as well. I think that's down to attitude, and
Yeah.
I'm really encouraged by the attitude that I saw when they played Leicester. Now, I think there'll be one or two changes to the team, but I'm going to stop there and ask you to do the Zencastr advert, please, Michael. And we're having some short parts today because we're not doing the full half hour.
Yep, absolutely fantastic. So, do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences that are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at the Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns. Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
I think it's fair to say, Michael, that is far more likely to have the phones ringing off the walls at Zencastr than the one that Nick and Joe recorded in our Christmas special. You'll have to listen out to it on Christmas Eve
It
for
was
an
absolutely
hour-long Christmas
tremendous.
special. All 5 of us took part. There was some football talked about, but mainly it was a very self-indulgent laugh between the 5 of us. But hey, you might enjoy that. Yes. So, team lineup. What do you think? I am absolutely delighted to report that Lewis Miley played for the under-23s last night, but came off at
Yeah.
half time.
Oh,
So I think that is flagging up that Lewis was proving his fitness so that he can be at least on the bench and get his first half, at least, of first team football this season, which I've been calling for. Uh, Other than that, I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of changes. I think this is a game that Eddie's going to want to put his first choice 11 out in. I don't think he's going to be resting
yeah.
anybody. Uh, What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you, to be honest. I think if there's going to be changes, it probably will be on Saturday or Sunday, which I think the Ipswich game's on Saturday. And I think it'll be in that game where maybe we decide to introduce the likes of Longstaff, maybe Lloyd Kelly if Dan Burn or someone needs a rest. But obviously Sven Botman's coming back as well. He played minutes last night and looked very good from what the journalists at the ground said. So we could even see the emergence of Sven Botman if the that would be at the weekend. So I think for Wednesday, I think we're looking at probably the same team pretty much that played Chelsea. So obviously you'll have Dubravka in for Pope. Kraft's injured as well, so it'll be probably Livramento or Trippier is probably your biggest question of who should play. I would say in a game where we're going to have more of the ball, I'd like to see Trippier play. And then Shaw, Burn, Lewis Hall. Maybe we don't see Tonali and Bruno. I'd like to. I'd like them both to start again because I thought they were fantastic against Leicester. And then I think we'll definitely see Joe Linton because he's suspended for the weekends. So why wouldn't you give him as many minutes in midweek as you can? And then up front, I think you might see Harvey Barnes. I think Gordon, as well as he played against Leicester, this is one of those games where you can rely on Barnes, give Gordon a little bit of a break, and then still play Alexander Isak and Jacob Murphy alongside. So you've still got that balance that we had against Leicester, but you're able to rotate some of the key players and still have strength. I think if we were looking at changing players, let's say Bruno out for Longstaff, that's a big drop in quality. But I think Gordon for Barnes, that's one that you can still maintain in a big game and still get the same results, I believe.
Interesting. I would suggest that Gordon would start, because I think that what Howe and Tyndall will want to do is to put this game to bed in the first hour, like they did against Leicester, because that gave him so much scope to be able to. I mean, Bruno came off after 62 minutes.
Yeah.
Gordon wasn't very far behind that. And Asula, of course, got his 20-odd minutes to play there as well. So I think if we can get 2 or 3 goals ahead after about 60, 65 minutes, and that would require, I think, our first choice 11 play in the first half
100%.
like they did at Brentford, then he's got the opportunity to take players off and give them half an hour off so that they're nice and fresh for the first team to turn out against Ipswich. You're absolutely right. Joe Linton won't play against Ipswich. He's suspended. But then, maybe he's got some choices there. Maybe Willock, maybe Longstaff, maybe Miley, if Miley can get on for the second half tomorrow night and do what I think he can do, which is forward passes, the way that Tonali and Bruno do when they're playing together, and not
Yeah.
from side to side to side to side to side to side like Sean Longstaff. Anyway, I think that probably previews where we are with who the team is. The crowd, of course, it's a Wednesday night game. The lights are on. I'm hoping that everybody is up for the cup. We usually are. I was at was it Bournemouth and Leicester,
Palace.
the two rounds before the semi-final against Southampton last
Oh,
time,
that season, yeah.
and they were both dreadful games, by the way. But the crowd was well up for them. They were tense games, I should say, but the crowd was well up for it. So I'm expecting a Liverpool type night, and if that's the case, then hopefully the lads are inspired, and we can have another watch like that first hour against Leicester.
Yeah.
I'm
Crowd's going to
going to
be
pause
very
there.
important.
Ask you to do us the Global Sports Podcast Network advert, please, Michael, and then we'll have a guess on scores.
No, absolutely no problem. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
How many clubs is that, Michael?
Well, it should just be the one, Daily Newcastle, but it's all of them every day.
Wonderful, wonderful. A little preview of the Christmas advert to come. You have to listen to it and then tell us if we were just gazing at our own navels or if you find it amusing or not. Anyway, part 3, prediction time.
Ooh.
Right. It's all down to whether my hope as to how the boys turn out comes true or not, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll go first to finish that off. I'm expecting us to blitz Brentford and be so up for
Ooh.
continuing our correction. They still have a number of games to apologise for in my book, and I think they'll all be up for this one. So I am going to go for a prediction of 2 or 3 ahead at half time.
Ooh.
We'll probably rest some players for the Ipswich game. We'll coast the last half hour. Brentford have got some strikers that will pinch one. That'll make it a 3-1. Now, you didn't see that coming, did you?
Oh, not at all. To be honest, I completely agree, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what Brentford turn up, because if it's the Brentford that's played in the last round against Sheffield Wednesday, they made several changes. I think if that team turns up, I do agree that I think we'll blitz them because I think we're going to play a very strong team, and I think we'll get the blocks running, and the crowd is going to be so important. So if you're at the game, please don't let it turn into a library, because if it does, that's where Newcastle are going to struggle, and Brentford might pick up their first away win of the season.
Michael, nobody goes to St James's Park hoping it's just going to be. You don't turn up with a bad head and hope it's quiet today, do you? But
Well,
you
I
do
don't,
need
but
the boys on the pitch to get a few liveners in the first 10 minutes to give us something to get off our seats for and to really get us worked up.
yeah, 100%.
And I do know the crowd is very good when it is a bit flat at actually trying to lift them as well. Hopefully that won't be needed, but I'm sure we'll all be there doing that if we have to.
Hopefully. I mean, the
Are
singing
you
corner
watching
in
it from?
particular. I'm actually out with a few pals. I'm not at the Brentford game, but I am going to see it with a few mates, just in the pub, and then I'll be
Nice.
back at St James's for Aston Villa. You at the game?
I am, thanks to the fairy godmother that is Joanne, because you don't come out in a ballot, but Joanne has some. I mean, I think she's a witch.
Yeah,
She has some
100%.
sort of. She casts some sort of spell, and has got me the ticket to get in for Liverpool, Leicester, this one, Villa, Wolves. But I'm still. I mean, Bournemouth. I failed on yesterday, but there's plenty of time for Joanne to work her magic for me to get to that one too. I hope you're listening, Joanne. So yeah, I will be there, and it's a long drive up for me, but I love the drives home when we've won. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Can listen to Talk Sport and bask in the glow of compliments and friendliness like there was going back after the Leicester game. Less fun when we've been turned over by Brighton or West Ham. They're the games we need an apology for.
Yeah,
Anyway,
100%.
um, I think that'll probably do us. You know, we've not got any team news apart from I think the hot thing is that you'll see Lewis Miley tomorrow. We quite like the idea of Trippier coming in for Livramento.
Yep.
Michael's got another thing he wants to say.
I do just want to add, because the last thing I said about a preview of the game was that Brentford could come away with their first away win of the season. That is not what I believe is going to happen. And I do
Oh
think it'll
yes,
be a very, very successful night for Newcastle. And I think we'll come out 3-0 victors, but I think we'll get too late in the second half to make it look a lot more comfortable than what it was.
all right. Yeah, it's the Carabao Cup, isn't it? We do struggle
Yeah.
for goals in the Carabao Cup. One dreadful Carabao Cup night. I don't know if anyone remembers this. Nick Pope was in goal for Burnley,
Oh.
and it was 0-0. It was 0-0 after the extra time as well, and a penalty shootout, which Maxi and somebody else missed their penalties, and Nick Pope saved 2 penalties. He's not playing tomorrow. It's Martin Dubravka, so that is irrelevant. However, I hope you're right. I hope you're nearly right, and they do get that last-minute consolation so that we win 3-1, because I will have my £2 on that.
Of
Anyway,
course.
thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you, Michael, for doing the overtime with me to do the second podcast of the night, and we've got a preview for the cup match to go out in the morning. Thanks,
Lovely.
everybody else, for listening. I think we shall be doing some sort of review to come out on Thursday morning,
Yep.
but we'll have to get organised for that. It's not organised yet. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. We shall see you on the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.